Ninjago is a show with a very detailed and complex world and history, and every season adds something to the world of Ninjago, usually with a flashback or some backstory scene. Here's a look at the top 10 backstory scenes of flashbacks in Ninjago. Hey guys, welcome back for a new top 10 video. Now, just a bit of a warning, there are so many fantastic flashbacks in Ninjago that there are going to be some iconic ones that don't make this list, such as the Hands of Time scene. So, sorry in advance, but that's about all I have to say. Let's begin. Number 10 is going to be Wojira's backstory, the most recent flashback to date, and I really enjoyed this one. I think the animation style is very good. This was a scene that really shaped our understanding of Ninjago. No longer did the first Spinjitzu Master create the realm himself, instead he only colonized it. I think this scene really ties everything together. It ties the amulets with the keepers of the Merlopians and Wojira and the first Spinjitzu Master. But also I really enjoyed the portrayal of Wojira, kind of like as a god of chaos. But this scene also foreshadows Nia's fate as Seabound, and shows how to defeat Wojira, one must merge with the sea. Not only is this scene about the past, it's very much about the future too. Overall, I think it's a wonderful scene that contributes so much to the world of Ninjago. Another scene which adds a lot to Ninjago, the Overlord's backstory in Season 2. What I think is excellent about this scene is how balance is represented here. The idea is that if there's good, there has to be evil, which I think is a great concept that is done wonderfully here. The animation is really good. It makes the Overlord feel very spooky and sinister, as does the soundtrack. I also really appreciate the story details, such as how Ninjago was divided in half, and how this battle never actually ended. Paired with the Garmadon story in the same episode, the build-up of the Overlord as a powerful and dangerous force is so good. This was really a great start to the final battle story, and the return of the Overlord. Harumi's backstory from Game of Masks takes number 8. The first great thing is how this event is tied to the Great Devourer, and that's something that happened during the show, not before it. This adds a lot of significance to the Season 1 finale, and makes it a lot more important than we realized at the time. Now, about the actual scene, it makes Ninjago feel real and feel mature. It shows that bad things do happen as a result of these giant battles, and that's such a cool concept to explore. Moving forward, we now think differently about these fights, and you wouldn't expect to think this much about fights in a cartoon show. The actual emotion here is great. It's a very tragic scene. It gives a ton of insight into why Harumi became a villain and her obsession with Garmadon. Even the origin of the Quiet One name is very haunting and very chilling. Harumi is one of Ninjago's best characters and villains, and this scene truly does develop her as a tragic and broken character. Another Season 8 one, the Tale of the Oni the Dragon. Similar to the Wojira scene, this drastically changed the history of Ninjago by providing an origin story for the first Spinjitzu Master. They bring back a familiar species, the dragon, but they also introduce a new species, the Oni, who are probably cooler in this flashback than they are in Season 10. Again, you have the idea of the balance with the Oni and the dragon, but also with Garmadon and Wu, and they offer a symbolic explanation as to why one brother is good and the other is bad. This adds more to why Garmadon was evil. It wasn't just the Devourer Bite, which we're going to talk about later in this video. I know some people liked it more when the first Spinjitzu Master didn't have an origin story. Perhaps it felt more mysterious, but I prefer this. I think it's a really cool origin story, and also led to some really great stuff in Season 9 and Season 10. Next up is the story of the Serpentine War, and this flashback is very informative. It covers so much. Chen, Klaus, Garmadon, and Misako's romance, even the sacred flutes. It covers this very well, so you learn a lot, and you definitely don't feel unsatisfied. But this story also really makes me feel interested in this era of Ninjago's history, and portrays it as very complex and very fascinating. However, this flashback also builds off of previous seasons. The Serpentine War had been referenced in episode 1 of Season 1. It was also referenced in Season 3. When Ninjago goes back and expands on past stuff, it's always good. But I thought this was an excellent flashback. Really fills in the blanks on a lot of stuff, such as the Anacondrate, the Serpentine tubes, even smaller stuff, such as why Wu and Misako were so close in Season 2, and also why Garmadon was Lord Garmadon. Seriously, this flashback is so good. Number 5 goes to the flashback where we see how Garmadon turned evil. This scene actually starts out very nice, very calm, then it takes a pretty scary turn. I enjoy how this scene shows something we're not used to seeing. Wu and Garmadon not just as children, but also friends. The simple music is very nice too, and kind of portrays this scene as a wistful memory, before the bad times. This flashback also explains the origins of Wu's iconic, never put off until tomorrow line, which I feel was a cool addition too. What's great about this flashback is Wu's guilt. This is a sad scene, but it's different than, for example, Harumi's flashback. It's sad because to this day, Wu still blames himself for not having the courage to get the sword. We see Wu's greatest source of pain and regret, and we've never really seen Wu like this before this episode. This flashback answers the big question about how Garmadon turned evil, and it also ties in really nicely to the current Serpentine threat. In fourth place is the ghost story of Morro, Wu's first pupil. This story is kind of haunting because it shows the fall of Morro and how he eventually died. The change in Morro is great. At first he's just a normal student, excited to learn, but as the flashback goes on, he becomes more arrogant and power-hungry. In this flashback, we see Morro try to defy destiny. This concept is explored a few times in Season 5. It is a great idea. I also really enjoy how they brought back the Green Ninja prophecy for Morro's backstory. It's really nice to see them feature elements from previous seasons, such as in Harumi's flashback, and of course here as well. This scene provides a perfect introduction of Morro, shows us who he is, why he was cursed, and why he's a villain. It's another source of pain in Wu's life, and this scene really shows us why. Number 3 is going to be a pretty recent scene, but a scene that has already established itself as one of the show's most significant backstory scenes. This scene was a big deal. It was the first time we ever saw Cole's mom, who had been a subject of speculation for years. This scene more or less confirms that she died of some sort of sickness, which is really good writing because she doesn't have a complicated ninja death. She just dies in a way many humans do. The flashback shows that Cole was probably closer to his mom than his dad, and this flashback really makes episode 9 of season 1 a lot better. Same can be said about Cole's season 8 flashback. Cole's promise feels very relevant to who he is as a character, and obviously the events of season 13. This was a big flashback. It answered a question fans have wanted for years, and this did not disappoint at all. In the runner-up spot is the very first backstory scene of the show, and this was the show's original history. This is a very nostalgic scene, and the music is phenomenal. The whole scene feels like an ancient myth or legend that Wu is telling Kai, and I really love that feel. It makes Ninjago feel like a very special and unique world. I especially love Wu's narration. I enjoy his lines. I think his voice acting is awesome too. And the actual story is really interesting. It draws you into the show and shows you how important the golden weapons are. The long before time had a name quote is awesome. It really makes the story feel ancient. I also love how they reference the battle between brothers and even the dragons. And the art style is really awesome too. I enjoyed this scene very much. I think it's really well done, but there is one better. My favorite flashback is when Zane regains his memories in episode 7. The emotion here could not be better. This isn't really a sad scene, because it's kind of happy actually. The flashback showed that these two had a happy life. It's very touching that even though he was a robot, Zane really was Dr. Julian's son. Their relationship is portrayed so nicely here, and we really do feel how close they were. That being said, this flashback is sad too. Dr. Julian does die after all, and his final lines about how Zane was the son he never had is one of the show's most powerful lines. The music is a masterpiece. It conveys the emotions I mentioned so well. Some of you may be surprised that this was number 1, because it's not nearly as epic or cool as some others. But isn't that kind of the point? This scene may be simple, but it's very powerful and very moving. And that's why this is easily my favorite backstory scene or flashback of the show. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone and everyone you know. Share your top 10 flashbacks or backstory scenes, and I'll see you next time.